You want the fescue what grass seed that you're going to plant this spring? We're going to go over just that and more. So I've got like 3 different species of rye, 2 different species of fescue, and 2 different species of Kentucky blue. You're in the middle of the seeding project, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So we haven't put the seed down. So I thought this could be fun because then we get a third-party view on what you're going to do.
Yep.
Let's start with my ryegrass, right? So right here is the original RPR mix, which now they're mixing it as what they would call CSI. So it's a blend from Jacqueline mixed with the RPR. And then we've got this over here, which is the Knorr. And then from here over, we're back to the regular RPR that they started building a few years ago. The best part about rye is how silky smooth. So let's go to some of these healthier batches and just put ground on it, right? It just feels like carpet. Yeah. Now, cutting habits, the nice thing about this is it really, like, I found it doesn't like to be above like 2 inches. So it looks messy. So you can keep this mowing 2 to 3 times a week, not 1 inch. If you only want to mow once a week, you're 1.5 inches. The difference between the blended species, you can notice this patch right here on the Knorr, it's not quite as thick, which is almost shocking. As you come over here on the Barenbrug side, and you'll notice you can't even see the darkness. There's a density issue, but I find that with the Knorr blend, there's a couple of advantages. And the main advantage really is the striping capabilities of the Knorr are going to look slightly better, and it does a little bit better in the fall and in the springtime than the Barenbrug. And I'm talking like you're probably not going to notice a difference kind of results.
Okay.
So when we come over to the CSI, let's get into a healthy chunk of the CSI, which would be about right here. You notice how green that is?
Yeah.
And here's the benefit. So you get the color, but feel how soft this is. And watch when I glaze my hand over it. It just, when you stripe it, it looks incredible. But then you look at the thickness and look at this. It's twice as thick as even the RPR over there.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that's pretty much that on these 3 varieties.
Okay.
So let's move on to the Bluegrass pile. Now, I'm a huge fan of Barenbrug just because of the seed technology that they have. Easy to plant, stays very healthy for the most part, and the density is just incredible. So this is Barenbrug's TurfBlue Pro. The biggest thing that you're going to notice on a difference between Bluegrass and the rye is the thickness. The huge benefit of having Kentucky Bluegrass is that this can go dormant for 8 weeks at a time. The Ryegrass cannot. It goes without water for about longer than 10, 12 days. It dead as a doorknob. Not going to happen. But I mean, look at the color on this. Yeah. It's just awesome. And I left it long on purpose so you kind of see it at its worst. So when you cut this, it looks like a sheet of pulp. This is one of my all-time favorite grasses to play with because you get that kind of hybrid. You get the drought tolerance. You get not quite the softness that you're going to get on the rye, but it's like you can beat it up. And it's regenerating. So do you know what that means?
But it comes back every year. If it dies off, it'll expand back out on its own.
Yeah. So it's got what we would call rhizomes. So that just means it will literally start creeping outward.
Gotcha.
Naturally. Not like Bermuda grass where it has a tail and a runner, but it will literally split itself off and regenerate. So the ryegrass has regenerating properties with the Barenbrug and the Jacqueline blends.
Okay.
The Knorr does not. It's a clumping, so it'll clump out. I've noticed the Knorr does good though. It'll clump out 3 inches, where the Barenbrug will do 8.
Okay.
So, but the Bluegrass, this is kind of a misconception where people think it's just going to just magically repair like Bermuda. Like within like 7 weeks, she'll just have a 2-foot area that grows to get It's not going to do that. It's more like within 8 weeks, it'll pull in maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch on all sides. Gotcha. Now, you were really curious about Fescue.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the video that you did with the 2 different fescues, the wildfire, especially just the quickness, how fast
Artemis and wildfire. Oh my gosh. So I'm actually really excited to talk about this, and I'm going to cut it so everybody at home can kind of see what the final product looks like. But right now I left it this way just so you could kind of really see its organic color. Really, really great. Yeah. And the funniest part is you'll notice there's a slight shade difference between the Artemis and the wildfire.
Yeah.
So this is our wildfire section. This is our Artemis section. But can you tell the difference?
Yeah. Like I said, there's a tiny little line you can see, but
It's so minute.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. Now what I want you to do is look at the blade density between the longest parts of the Artemis, or the longest parts of the wildfire, and the longest parts of the Artemis. This is really where you're going to see the difference.
This honestly doesn't even look like a fescue to me, because we have like that clumping fescue out there. That's what I want to get rid of. It's horrible.
It's wild, isn't it?
Like this, it's 3-4 times as thick.
So let's take the longest portion of the Artemis, which is this right here. We'll take the longest portion of the wildfire, and look at this. Look at how much bigger the Artemis is from the wildfire. So wildfire, Artemis. Check this out. It's almost 25% wider.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that crazy? So I was actually able to keep this side at 1 inch mowing 3 to 5 days a week.
Okay.
No problem. And it's fescue. But feel it.
It doesn't feel like
It almost feels like bluegrass to me.
Yeah. On these longer ones, it's a little bit more stiffness, but really I love it. It feels like it's off kids I played on growing up.
Yeah. So here's the wild. Okay, let's talk about watering. So when it comes to my bluegrass and my ryegrass, I started watering once a week, maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch.
Okay.
On the grasses over here as they were going dry. I have yet to water this.
All season.
Yeah. This is just from the rain.
And we haven't had that much this year.
No, I take that back. It got watered twice as I was turning the sprinklers on, just to make sure that there wasn't any broken lines. And we had less than, I think it was 1/8 of an inch each time. But this had to get watered regularly, so it wouldn't just die out. And my bluegrass, I kept it at a dormancy, which is what I had to do. So when it comes to amounts of water, my rigging is much greater on this than it is on the bluegrass and the perennial rye. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had some crazy rooting on portions of my perennial rye and my bluegrass. So the difference between my fescue isn't much, but this has only been in here for 6-8 months. Like it's new.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, the Artemis versus the wildfire. Did you notice these dead spots in here?
I did, yeah. A couple of little
random patches. This is the only thing. This is not like bluegrass where we're going to get that creeping and have it self-repair. But notice how many issues that we have on the wildfire side by comparison. And I think this is going to shock you when I tell you what this is. This really doesn't count this section. This is just roots from the tree. But then when we get over here, we've got a couple of spots here on the wildfire, but then look over here on the Artemis side.
Oh, wow.
Take a wild guess what we're dealing with over here.
My gut would say grubs or something, but no, I don't.
Snow mold.
Oh, geez.
Yep. Just coming out of the winter, that matted grass here, and it was much greater on the Artemis side than the wildfire. And so I want to give everybody a fair view on both sides, no bias, no restrictions, and then I'm going to cut it and show you these results. Ultimately, it's a fantastic grass, and for the stigma that we have here in Utah of fescue,
absolutely,
it's shocking. Like, I mean, you got to understand where we're at. you talk about the bunch of tall fescue, right?
Yeah.
So we get the clumping variety that a lot of people think is crabgrass.
Yeah.
It is not inviting on the feet.
Not at all. Not at all.
And it comes
My dogs hate it.
comes off of the mountains and the hillsides. So when you get into these, I almost call them like designer species of fescue. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like it feels as soft to me as my bluegrass.
Yeah. It's thick and beautiful, and it looks like a traditional lawn. I love it.
But I find that the blade density is not as thick as the bluegrass.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So everybody out there wants to know, what are you going to choose?
I'm leaning towards the fescue.
6 choices. What are you choosing? Fescue's awesome, man.
The one question I'm also wondering: germination for growth. Which one's going to grow quicker? Do I need to pre-germinate on any?
I love this question, right? Because springtime seeding with bluegrass.
Because it's going to get hot real fast here, so I want to try and establish.
Spring seeding with bluegrass is it's not impossible, but it takes so much care. This is what I'll tell you. Fescue and my perennial ryegrass, I did it while it was 90 degrees outside.
Okay.
This fescue was planted as it was 85 degrees and went into 95 degrees within 6 weeks.
Okay.
No problem. And I had almost, I would say my seed germination rate, if I was just throw mud at the wall and guess, it was pretty close to 80% in the dead of the summer.
Just intense here.
Yeah, and I didn't do anything special. I literally threw the seed down, let it grow, and that's where we're at.
No, you didn't do the soaking pre-germination, none of that?
0.
Okay.
I didn't want to have any camera tricks, no nothing. I literally threw it down like the Salt Bay and let it rip tater chip. That's all we did. I put a little bit of sphagnum peat moss over the top of it, and that was it. Nothing special. So as long as we deal with some of your soil issues, I have no problems telling you that the ryegrass and or the fescue will have no problems growing without having to do any sort of pre-germination process.
Okay. I'm thinking, it's based off the feel of the tolerance. I'm thinking the fescue is probably going to be the way to go.
Okay.
I mean, I'm out in the West Desert. It's hot and it's dry.
So that brings us to our next point. Are you going with the Artemis or are you going to go with the Wildfire?
The concern I had about the Artemis was the snow mold, but I don't really have that issue out there. I get much less snow than you do here. I don't have trees in my yard to worry about, snow sitting forever in the shade. My gut this whole time has been saying wildfire, but it's almost a crapshoot.
So I'm not going to try to sway you either way because I want this to be completely unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thoughts on this. You get a very, very slight color differentiation on the Artemis. I believe that the Artemis had a better self-defense mechanism against melting out, but it wasn't that far off. But the snow mold was way worse in the springtime over the wildfire. The Artemis looks incredible when it's above 2 inches, where the wildfire, you get that variety of being able to keep it. My opinion, they don't tell you this on the bag, but my opinion is anywhere between 1 inches on as high as you want.
Okay.
So I also found that the wildfire's blade density was thinner than the Artemis, which made it softer on my feet. But that's why I wanted you to feel the two, because I felt like the Artemis was a little bit more coarse over the wildfire. But again, it's all personal preference. However, with these samples of the amount of snow mold that I got, it makes it so you're going to have to overseed that much more with our harsh winters.
Yeah.
So that's the pluses and minuses between the two.
I think with that, the softer feel, I think, is with my kids. Love to go out in the yard, watch it. We face the high school, watch the fireworks and stuff in the summer. I think the softer grass would be nice. The
all right,
softer
so
feel.
you're gonna have to make a decision. You're gonna have to say
go wildfire.
Go with the wildfire. All right, Brady, hold tight. I got something for you.
All right.
So my friends at Barenbrug always treat me right. So this is yours, big guy.
Beautiful.
I had a little bit of a surplus.
A little bit.
But yeah, it's fantastic to see that. I think it can really happen. The other thing that we're asking for, document a little bit, share the wealth,
Absolutely.
and let's talk about your experience.
And here we have the walrus on the grass, a majestic beast that just sits and slobbers all day, with his only goal in life to achieve maximum comfortability. He is one not often to be impressed